I didn't steal anything, Mr. Harrington. Please, you know me. Those trembling words sliced through the laughter floating across the Harrington estate like a knife. The room didn't go quiet all at once. It fell silent, slow, heavy, suffocating. Like every chandelier in the mansion stopped glowing at the same time. Maya Alvarez stood in the center of the marble foyer, her hands shaking, her maid's uniform still dusty from morning chores. Her dark eyes darted between the guests, searching for just one face that believed her. She found none. A moment later, 2 private security guards stepped behind her. "Ma'am," one said coldly, "you need to come with us." Gasps echoed. Someone whispered, $800,000. Gone. Someone else muttered, "People like her, always stealing." Maya felt the humiliation claw into her chest. But the voice that spoke next wasn't hers. "Stop!" It was soft, small, shaking. 6-year-old Ethan Harrington stood on the staircase, holding a teddy bear by one ear, confusion written across his pale face. "Miss Maya didn't do anything," he whispered. His stepmother, Vanessa Harrington, flawless dress, flawless smile, flawless lies, descended the stairs slowly, placing a manicured hand on his shoulder with theatrical gentleness. "Oh, sweetheart," she murmured, "I know she's been kind to you, but adults make mistakes. We have to be honest here." She turned to the crowd. Her expression hardened. "Check her room again. Everything. Every drawer. Every pocket." Gasps. Murmurs. Maya's knees trembled. But the expression that froze her wasn't Vanessa's. It was the billionaire himself, Jonathan Harrington, standing in the doorway, face like carved stone, eyes colder than January wind. "Maya," he said slowly, "tell me where the money is." Her mouth fell open. He didn't believe her. Not even after 3 loyal years. "I don't know anything about money, sir. I've never even seen $800,000 in my life." Vanessa's voice rose, full of venom, packaged as concern. "Do you hear that? She can't even lie properly." The guests nodded. The guards stepped closer. And that's when everything began. Moments earlier, the Harrington mansion glowed like a palace in a fairy tale. Golden chandeliers, wine glasses shimmering, violins playing softly in the corner. Wealth didn't just live there, it breathed. But beneath the luxury, something darker simmered. In the back kitchen, away from the laughter, Maya Alvarez moved swiftly with her tray of champagne flutes. She had been with the Harringtons long enough to know that perfection wasn't just expected, it was demanded. One wrong step, one spilled drink, one whisper overheard, and she could lose everything she worked for. Maya wasn't just a maid, she was a survivor. "Miss Maya?" The tiny voice startled her. She turned to find Ethan, small, wide-eyed, dressed in a tiny vest and bow tie, holding her apron where she had forgotten to tie the last loop. "You dropped this," he said shyly. Maya smiled gently and knelt so she was eye-level with him. "Thank you, little man," she whispered, tying the strap back in place. "How do I look?" "Perfect," he said. Her heart softened. Ethan was the only bright spot in the house some days, the only one who treated her like a human being, not hired furniture. But before she could stand, Vanessa's heels clicked sharply behind them. "Maya," she said, voice dripping sugar over steel, "I need you to wash the guest rooms again. I found lint on Mr. Green's sheets. Lint! Do you realize how embarrassing that is for us?" Maya bowed her head. Yes, ma'am. And smile, for God's sakes. You look miserable. Vanessa swept away, her perfume lingering like poison. Maya exhaled slowly. Behind her, Ethan whispered, She's mean to you. Maya placed a finger to her lips. Shh, mi cielo. Some things we don't say out loud. But Ethan's little face remained troubled. As Maya rose, one thought pricked the back of her mind. Vanessa had been acting strange all week, secretive, angry. Whispers behind locked doors, late-night phone calls. Something wasn't right. And that night, everything snapped. Just as Maya carried a tray of glasses toward the ballroom, Vanessa screamed, My safe! Jonathan! The money is gone! The music stopped mid-note. Guests turned. Vanessa staggered into the room, clutching her chest dramatically. $800,000! Missing! She cried. Jonathan rushed to her. How long ago? Minutes! She gasped. I went in to get the donation envelope, and it was empty. And who had access? Someone asked. Vanessa's eyes slid across the room like a predator choosing prey. Then her finger raised, straight at Maya. She did. The room erupted. Maya almost dropped her tray. Her world tilted. Air punched from her lungs. Me? She whispered. I don't go near the safe. I don't even know where it is. Vanessa stepped closer, voice filled with manufactured pain. You've been in this house for years. You know our routines. You know where Jonathan keeps things. That doesn't mean... She tried. Search her, Vanessa demanded. Jonathan didn't protest. That betrayal cut deeper than Vanessa's accusation. Guards appeared almost instantly, like this was planned. And it was. Maya realized it too late. Everything Vanessa had been doing, every little manipulation, every small setup, had been building to this moment. But Vanessa forgot one thing. Ethan, and what he had seen, and what he knew.
The morning after the accusation felt heavier than any morning Maya Lopez had ever lived through. The Whitmore mansion, usually buzzing with house staff, decorators, florists, and Claire's endless list of urgent tasks, seemed frozen in an uneasy stillness. It wasn't quiet. Quiet had peace in it. This was something else, something tense, something watching. Maya could feel it the moment she stepped through the back door. Eyes. Not the literal kind, though she was certain a few of the servants were peeking from behind door frames and hall corners. No, it was the house itself. The Whitmore estate had always been intimidating, but today every chandelier, every marble floor tile, every oil painting seemed to lean closer, listening, judging. She carried herself stiffly, her uniform ironed impeccably, though her hands shook just slightly. She'd barely slept. Who could sleep after being publicly accused of stealing nearly $1 million? She didn't even know what $800,000 looked like. But she knew how it felt to be treated like she'd taken it. It felt like humiliation burning under her skin. It felt like betrayal. It felt like drowning. Maya? A sharp voice snapped. She flinched before she could help it. Then she turned. Claire Whitmore, ice blonde hair, flawless makeup before breakfast, emerald robe cinched tight, stood in the doorway of the dining hall with a look of total irritation, as if Maya's existence had personally inconvenienced her morning. "You're late," Claire said, even though Maya wasn't. "My apologies, Mrs. Whitmore. No excuses. A maid who steals shouldn't try to appear punctual." A few servants nearby winced. She wanted them to hear. She was planting seeds, making sure the humiliation bloomed properly. Maya bit the inside of her cheek. She wasn't a confrontational person. Years of service jobs had taught her how to swallow pride like bitter tea, but something inside her broke just a little. "Mrs. Whitmore," Maya said quietly, "I didn't take anything." "Of course not," Claire smirked as though Maya had just told a joke at the wrong party. "Of course not," she cooed in a voice dripping with sarcasm. "The invisible thief must have done it." A few soft chuckles rose behind Claire, from guests, lingering after last night's party. People who had barely acknowledged Maya when she served their drinks, but now looked at her with the scandalous fascination people saved for car crashes and gossip. Claire let the reaction simmer, then added with exaggerated sympathy, "Let's hope the police believe your little story as well." Maya's throat tightened. The police. A formal investigation. She could lose her job, her reputation, her entire life, all over something she hadn't even seen. She swallowed. "I'd like to speak to Mr. No." Claire's smile vanished instantly. "My husband is not to be bothered. And frankly, Maya, you should accept your position. You're lucky I haven't fired you yet." Lucky? Lucky? Maya felt heat rise in her chest. Not anger, fear. She needed this job. She needed to keep a roof over her own mother's head. She couldn't lose everything because of Claire's lie. Just then, "Maya!" The small voice drifted in like a breeze through tension. Ethan, wearing dinosaur pajamas and rubbing one sleepy eye, stood in the hallway with a confused expression. Claire stiffened. Of all the people who could have appeared right now, her stepson was the last she wanted. "Ethan," Claire said through a tight smile, "go upstairs and get ready for breakfast." But Ethan ignored her. Instead, he walked straight up to Maya and handed her a folded piece of paper. "You forgot this yesterday," he said softly. Maya frowned. "What is it?" "I drew it for you," the boy whispered shyly. Claire's lips tightened. She hated anyone in this house liking the maid more than her. Maya opened the paper. It was a drawing. Crayon colors all over the page. A house, a sun, a woman beside a small boy. Underneath it, "Me and Miss Maya." Her eyes stung. She knelt, pulling the boy gently into a hug. "Thank you," she whispered. The boy pulled back, staring at her with earnest seriousness only children possessed. "You didn't steal anything," he said loudly. The dining hall went silent. Claire's face drained, then flushed. "Ethan," she hissed, "go. Upstairs, now." He didn't move. Instead, he looked at his stepmother with an intensity far beyond 6 years old. "Your mom said you should tell the truth." I blinked. Claire's face sharpened. "Your mother is gone, and we do not bring her up like this." His jaw trembled, but he didn't cry. His small fists balled at his sides. "You lied," he whispered. Now the guests shifted, uncomfortable. The servants froze, barely breathing. Claire crouched down, smiling with the sweetness of a snake about to bite. "Ethan, sweetheart, adults make decisions you don't understand." "But I do understand," he insisted, voice rising. "You took the—" "Maya," Claire cut in, snapping upright. "Get to the kitchen, now." It wasn't a request. It was an order. One of those orders with consequences behind it. Maya hesitated only long enough to meet Ethan's eyes. The boy looked frightened, like he'd been silenced before, like this wasn't the first lie hidden behind these walls. Then she lowered her gaze and stepped back, knowing one thing. Ethan knew something, and Claire knew Ethan knew something. And that made Maya the most dangerous person in the house. Because now she wasn't just a maid accused of theft. Now she was a witness to something bigger, something Claire didn't want anyone to hear. But the whispers didn't end there.
As Maya made her way down the long marble corridor, servants whispered behind her, some with pity, some with doubt, some with the kind of excitement that only came when someone else's life was falling apart. Then she reached the kitchen and froze. Two uniformed security officers stood by the counter. The head of household staff, a stiff, stone-faced man named Calvin, looked at her as if she were a burglar caught in the act. "Maya Lopez," he said without emotion. "Please stand by the table." Her heartbeat thudded painfully in her ears. "Why?" she managed. Calvin cleared his throat, eyes flicking briefly toward the security men. "Mrs. Whitmore requested a personal search." Maya's mouth dried. "A search?" she whispered. "For the missing funds." "But that money wasn't even in cash." "A search," Calvin repeated, voice colder. Maya felt her entire soul shrink. Humiliation again. Violation again. Truth pushed aside again. She stood still, frozen. Security stepped closer. Then, a door slammed somewhere in the distance. Footsteps. Hard, fast, furious footsteps. A voice, low, controlled, but edged with unmistakable anger. "Who authorized this?" Every head whipped toward the doorway. Liam Whitmore, 25, sharp-jawed, sleeves rolled to his elbows, the air no one underestimated, stood glaring, eyes locked on the scene. Claire's stepson, the billionaire's son, the only person in the house who believed in Maya. And from the storm in his expression, Maya knew one thing. This was the moment the lies started unraveling.
Liam Whitmore wasn't usually a man who raised his voice. He didn't need to. In a house where money and reputation ruled like gods, Liam's presence alone commanded attention. He was the one with his father's mind, his late mother's conscience, and a quiet intensity that made people rethink every word they said around him. So when he walked into the kitchen with anger burning behind his eyes, people moved. The security officers stepped back. Calvin stiffened. Maya didn't dare breathe. Liam's gaze swept the room and landed on Maya. His expression softened, only for half a second, but in that moment Maya felt something she hadn't felt in almost 24 hours. Safety. "Calvin," Liam said, voice dangerously calm, "I asked you a question. Who authorized this?" Calvin's Adam's apple bobbed. "Mrs. Whitmore, sir." Liam's jaw tightened so hard Maya thought she heard the grinding of his teeth. "And why," he asked slowly, "is my stepmother ordering my father's staff to violate protocol?" Calvin hesitated. "That was a mistake." Liam stepped forward, closing the distance with the calculated stride of someone who grew up negotiating billion-dollar deals at dinner tables. "Calvin, speak." Mrs. Whitmore believed Maya had hidden something. Liam's eyes flicked to Maya, then back. "And you thought searching an innocent woman, without my father's approval, without evidence, was a good idea?" Calvin wilted. "Sir, Mrs. Whitmore insisted." "And yet I," Liam said, voice sharpening, "am the one legally authorized to oversee internal affairs when my father is away." Calvin blinked. So did the security guards. Maya didn't. She knew. Everyone in the mansion knew. Mr. Whitmore trusted Liam, not Claire. Claire hated that. And Claire used every opportunity to undermine him. Liam crossed his arms. "Call off the search." Calvin nodded quickly to the officers. They stepped back, murmuring to each other. Maya exhaled shakily, her knees weak with relief. She almost whispered, "Thank you," before stopping herself. This wasn't over. Not even close. Liam turned to her with something gentler in his eyes. "Maya," he said, "are you hurt? Did they—" "No, they didn't start." Liam's jaw tightened. He hated that she had to say that. Before he could speak again, clack, clack, clack. The sharp rhythm of heels echoed across the kitchen floor, slicing through the tension like a blade. Claire Whitmore stepped inside. Her smile was warm. Her eyes were ice. "Well," she said sweetly, "isn't this dramatic?" No one answered. Claire flicked her gaze toward Maya, letting it linger with disdain. "Maya, dear, I didn't realize you needed a personal bodyguard to handle a standard search."
Liam turned toward her. There is nothing standard about humiliating an employee based on a baseless accusation. Claire clasped her hands with faux innocence. Oh, Liam, don't be naive. Money doesn't just disappear, and I refuse to live in a home where a thief can walk freely. Maya flinched. Claire smirked. Unless, Claire added softly, you'd prefer the police handle this. The implication was clear. If Maya didn't submit to Claire's control, Claire would destroy her life. Liam stepped between them. Enough. His voice cracked through the air like a whip. You're going too far. Oh, please, Claire scoffed. Your father put me in charge of the household. No, Claire corrected. He put you in charge of social appearances, not staff, not finances, and certainly not disciplinary actions. Claire's eyes flashed. There it was, the crack beneath her perfect exterior. A single word could shatter her. Control. She stepped closer until she and Liam stood nearly nose to nose. You forget your place sometimes, she whispered. Liam's expression didn't change. And you forget yours. Calvin looked like he wanted to melt into the floor. The servant stared at the ground. Maya kept her breath shallow. The power struggle unfolding in front of her was the kind of thing staff whispered about for weeks, but never dared mention louder than a murmur. Claire, realizing she was losing the moment, pivoted. Hard. You know what? She said lightly. Fine. I'll let this go. For now. The dangerous smile on her face told Maya one thing. This wasn't mercy. This was strategy. Claire walked toward the door, but paused, just long enough to deliver her final blow. Oh, Maya, she said without turning around. A word of advice. When someone like me is watching you, Claire tilted her head just slightly, the smartest thing you can do is behave. The room remained frozen even after she swept out, her perfume lingering like poison in the air. Liam waited 3 beats, then turned to Maya. Come with me, he said quietly. Maya followed him down the hallway, away from prying eyes, not to scold her, not to interrogate her, to talk, to understand. They stopped in a private study, a room Maya had barely cleaned because it was used so rarely. Sunlight filtered through tall windows, dust particles floating in the air like tiny suspended secrets. Liam shut the door behind them. Then he spoke gently. Maya, I need you to tell me everything you know. Her throat tightened. I already said I didn't. I believe you. The words hit her harder than she expected. She had heard so many accusations, so much doubt. To hear someone powerful, say they believed her? Her eyes burned. She sat down slowly. It started last night, during the party. Liam nodded, listening intently. He always had this rare ability, to make someone feel like their words mattered. I went upstairs to bring Mrs. Whitmore a shawl. When I left the room, she was alone. When I came back, she said the jewelry safe was open. The money, gone. And then she accused you. He finished. Maya nodded. No, Liam frowned. But that safe isn't easy to open. It requires both a passcode and a fingerprint. I know. So anyone could have done it only if... She set it up, Maya whispered before she could stop herself. Silence. Liam didn't laugh, didn't call her dramatic, didn't question her. He just leaned back, thinking. Maya, he said slowly. "My stepmother knows exactly how protected my father's finances are. She couldn't steal that money without triggering protocols, unless... Unless what?" Liam hesitated. "Unless she wants someone else to take the fall." Maya's breath caught. "Someone like me," she whispered. Liam's eyes hardened. "Yes." Maya twisted her fingers together. "But why? I've never done anything to her." Liam exhaled. "Claire targets people she can control, or blame, or erase." The room went cold. Erase. What a terrifying word. "Liam," Maya whispered, "Ethan said something this morning, something about telling the truth. He was scared, and Claire looked at him like she wanted to silence him." That changed Liam's posture completely. He stood abruptly. What exactly did he say? Maya replayed the moment in her mind. He said, "You lied." Then he started to say something else before she stopped him. Liam's hands curled into fists. "That's it," he murmured. "That's the piece she didn't want heard." Suddenly, everything clicked. The timing, the setup, the desperation. Claire wasn't just accusing Maya, she was covering up something. Something she didn't want Ethan or Maya to reveal. Liam moved toward the door. "Where are you going?" Maya asked. He looked back with the expression of a man who had just found the first thread to a massive lie. To talk to Ethan. But the trap was already closing. As Liam left the study, Maya rose to follow, but when she opened the door, a shadow stood waiting in the hall. Claire Whitmore. Arms crossed. A smile razor sharp. "Oh, Maya!" "One last thing." Maya froze. Claire leaned in, lips brushing the words like venom. "Next time you whisper in my stepson's ear, you won't walk out of this house so easily." Then she walked away, her heels echoing like a countdown.
Maya stood trembling. Claire had just declared war, and Maya was trapped in the middle of it. Ethan Whitmore sat alone in the playroom, knees pulled up to his chest, the soft hum of the fish tank bubbling beside him. It was his favorite room in the whole mansion. Bright walls, friendly colors, superhero posters, toy cars lined in perfect rows. But today, it felt like a prison. His tiny fingers twisted and untwisted the hem of his t-shirt. He kept glancing at the doorway, waiting for someone he trusted. Someone who wouldn't lie to him. Someone who wouldn't hurt him. When Liam finally appeared in the doorway, Ethan's head snapped up. "Ethan," Liam said softly, crouching down. "Hey, buddy. Can we talk?" The boy didn't speak, didn't move. His eyes flicked behind Liam, checking to make sure the one person he feared wasn't lurking in the shadows. "She's not here," Liam assured him. "It's just us." Ethan swallowed hard. His little face was pale, far too pale for a boy who should have been running around laughing, not hiding in silence. Liam eased closer and sat on the floor across from him, legs crossed like he used to when Ethan was a toddler. "You're safe," Liam whispered. "I promise." For a moment, Ethan didn't believe it. Then his shoulders loosened, just a little. Liam wasn't just here for answers. He was here to protect him. It wasn't the first time he'd sensed something off. Ethan had been clingier for months. He flinched when someone shut a door too loudly. He whispered apologies for things he couldn't have possibly done. But Liam had never connected those red flags to Claire. He'd wanted to believe the best of his father's new wife. He'd wanted to believe he wasn't watching history repeat itself. "Ethan," Liam said gently, "you told Maya something earlier. Something important." Ethan tensed. "Maya said you were brave." The boy blinked, eyes filling. "Is she okay?" Liam nodded. "I'm making sure of it."
The reassurance made something inside Ethan unclench. He took a shaky breath. "Ethan," Liam continued, "did Claire say something to you, or did you see something?" The little boy's lips trembled. She told me not to talk." Liam felt his heartbeat spike. What did she tell you not to talk about? Ethan looked down at his shoes. "The safe." The word dropped into the silence like a stone. Liam's breath stilled. The safe?" he repeated, leaning closer, but keeping his tone steady. Ethan nodded slowly. "I was in Daddy's office yesterday. I was drawing, the picture I made?" He pointed vaguely toward a colorful scribble pinned on the bulletin board. Liam remembered. A picture of the whole family, except Claire, who Ethan had carefully placed outside the stick figure circle. "You were drawing," Liam encouraged. "And then what happened?" Ethan hesitated, then whispered, She opened the safe." Liam's heart crashed into his ribs. "Claire?" Ethan nodded. "She didn't know I was behind the desk." His little fingers pressed together anxiously. "She typed the code, then she used Daddy's—" He mind touching something with a thumb. "The shiny thing." Liam felt sick. Claire didn't have William Whitmore's fingerprint access, so that meant she'd used her backup keycard. Not a normal keycard, but the emergency biometric override. A card that only family had access to, and Claire had no business touching it, not unless she planned to steal something. "Ethan," Liam said carefully, "what happened next?" The boy shook. And then, Ethan hesitated, eyes darting to the doorway again. "She saw me." Liam's breath locked. "What did she do?" he whispered. Ethan's voice shrank to a thin, terrified thread. "She smiled." That terrified Liam more than any scream. "She came over and knelt really close, his little fingers pressed together so tightly the knuckles whitened. She said, 'Sometimes little boys see things they shouldn't.'" Liam's stomach twisted. "And then she said Daddy wouldn't believe me because I lie a lot. But I don't lie, Liam. I don't." I know. You don't." "She said if I told Daddy or you or anyone, she would make sure Maya got hurt." Liam's whole body went rigid. Not fired, not blamed. Hurt. Those were Ethan's exact words. Liam inhaled sharply, feeling something hot and fierce ignite behind his ribs, something protective, primal, unstoppable. Claire Whitmore thought she held all the cards. She thought she could manipulate staff, twist narratives, and use fear like a weapon. She thought she could use Ethan's silence as a shield. But she forgot something. Liam wasn't a boy anymore. He wasn't defenseless. And he was his father's son. As he left the playroom, a shift happened. Subtle, electric, dangerous. The kind of shift that happens right before a storm breaks. He walked through the hallway with purpose, each step harder, sharper, faster. His heartbeat thundered with a mixture of rage and clarity. Claire Whitmore thought she held all the cards. She thought she could manipulate staff, twist narratives, and use fear like a weapon. She thought she could use Ethan's silence as a shield. But she forgot something. Liam wasn't a boy anymore. He wasn't defenseless. And he was his father's son. As he reached the grand staircase, he saw movement below. Claire, standing in the foyer, smiling at a guest leaving through the front door. Her posture perfect, her laugh sparkling like crystal, her lies wrapped in silk. She didn't see Liam yet, but when he stepped forward, his shadow stretching across the marble floor, she turned. Her smile faltered, just slightly, just enough to confirm she knew something had shifted, something had cracked, and the truth was coming for her. Liam took another step, then another. Claire straightened, her eyes narrowing. "Liam?" she asked sharply, guarded. "Something wrong?" He stopped at the bottom of the stairs, gaze unblinking. "Yes," he said quietly. "You."
Claire Whitmore had always been a master at one thing: control. Control of a room, control of a narrative, control of the people around her. But as Liam fixed his gaze on her, cold, focused, unwavering, she felt something she wasn't used to: weakness. A tiny crack inside her carefully curated armor. Her heels clicked once on the marble floor as she shifted her weight, masking her sudden discomfort with a polished smile. "Liam," she said smoothly, "you're looking at me like I've killed someone. What on earth is going on?" Liam descended the final step, each one deliberate, like a judge walking toward his bench. "I talked to Ethan," he said. For a fraction of a second, so quick no one else would have seen it, Claire's eyelid twitched. But Liam saw. He saw everything now. Claire exhaled softly, flipping into her well-practiced role, the offended stepmother, falsely accused, too dignified to raise her voice. "What did he say?" she asked lightly. "Children imagine things all the time." "Stop." Liam's voice cut clean through her sentence. Claire wasn't used to being silenced, not by staff, not by friends, and definitely not by William Whitmore's only son. She straightened her spine. The smile slipped. "What exactly," she said slowly, "are you accusing me of?" Liam stepped closer, invading the personal space she used like a shield. "Stealing from my father, threatening his child, framing Maya, and daring to think you could get away with it." Claire's face hardened, not the soft anger she showed the public, not the polished annoyance she wielded like a weapon. Real anger, dark, sharp, cold. "You're making a mistake," she hissed. "No, you did." For the first time, Claire lost her composure. "What did Ethan tell you exactly?" she demanded, dropping her poised tone entirely. Liam folded his arms. "Everything." The word echoed down the marble hallway. Everything. Ethan seeing her open the safe, using the biometric override, loading cash into bags, threatening him into silence, blaming Maya to cover her trail. Claire's jaw flexed. Then, shockingly, she laughed. A small brittle sound at first, then louder, sharp enough to slice tension across the foyer. "Oh, Liam," she chuckled, brushing invisible lint off her silk blouse. "Oh, Liam, you're just as naive as your father. Do you really think anyone will believe a 6-year-old with anxiety issues over me?" Liam's expression didn't change. That angered her more. "People see you as the broken son," she hissed. "The dropout, the disappointment. No one listens to you." That did strike a nerve, but not the way she hoped. "Funny," he said, "because Maya listened." Claire froze. For the first time, she looked nervous. "Maya knows Ethan doesn't lie," Liam continued. "She's been protecting him for months. And that you hated, didn't you? That someone in this house loved the children more than you ever could?" Claire's eyes darkened. That maid," Liam said sharply, "has more integrity in her little finger than you have in your entire body." Claire snapped. "Watch your mouth." Her voice thundered through the foyer, loud enough that staff peeked from hallways, pausing mid-task, startled by the sudden explosion. Claire's gaze flicked around, realizing too late she had broken the one rule she lived by: never lose control in public. Liam stepped forward, lowering his voice but sharpening it like steel. "You stole $800,000. Claire swallowed. "You threatened a child." Claire's breathing quickened. "And you framed an innocent woman." A tremor flashed down Claire's arm, barely noticeable unless you were close. Liam was very close. "Tell me why," he said, eyes narrowing. "Why did you do it?" Claire opened her mouth, and, suddenly, "Liam!" Both turned. Down the hallway, fast steps approached. Not staff, not guests. William Whitmore, the billionaire himself. His expression was unreadable, but the tension around his eyes revealed one thing. He had heard enough. Claire changed masks instantly. "William!" she cried, rushing toward him, grabbing his hand with both of hers like a damsel in distress. "Thank God you're here. He's confused. He's attacking me with ridiculous accusations." "What's going on?" He didn't look at her. He looked at Liam. Not angry, not dismissive, serious, which made Claire panic. "William," she began again, squeezing his arm, "Liam is trying to blame me for Maya's theft. He's being manipulated by that little boy." "His name is Ethan," William interrupted. Sharply, Claire stiffened. William stepped past her, toward Liam. "Tell me. All of it." Claire's face drained of color. Liam didn't hesitate. "Dad, Ethan saw you open your safe yesterday afternoon." Claire shook her head violently. "William, please!" Liam continued. "He watched her take stacks of cash. He saw her fill shopping bags with it. He saw her using your override key card." Claire gripped William's arm, nails digging into his sleeve. "He's lying, William. Can't you see? He's jealous. He's always been jealous of what we have." Liam ignored her. "And Ethan said that she told him that if he said anything, she'd make sure Maya got hurt." William's breath stopped. Claire's hand slipped from his sleeve. "No, no, William. You can't possibly believe—" "Where is Maya now?" William asked. "In the security office," Liam said. "Your head of security detained her like Claire requested." The billionaire closed his eyes briefly, just long enough to swallow the rising fury. Then he opened them, and those eyes, usually calm, rational, composed, were ice. "Release her." Claire panicked. "William, listen to me." "Release her." The command echoed like a gunshot. A guard who'd been standing at the entrance nodded quickly and sprinted down the corridor. Claire looked stunned, desperate, cornered. "William," she pleaded, voice breaking into carefully engineered tears, "I would never hurt your children. I love them." "Did you threaten Ethan?" William asked. His voice was low, controlled, dangerous. Claire blinked rapidly. I would never—" "Look me in the eyes." She did. He saw the lie instantly. Claire realized it too late. She reached for his arm again. "William, baby!" He stepped back. Claire froze mid-air, hand hovering in empty space. "Where is the money?" William asked. I don't know." Wrong answer. His phone buzzed. He glanced down. A message from head of security. "Sir, safe room camera footage found. Claire accessed vault yesterday afternoon. Please advise." William slowly lifted his eyes back to Claire. Nothing on his face moved. Not rage, not heartbreak, not disappointment. Just cold, unforgiving resolution. "Liam," he said, quietly, "get Ethan." Liam nodded and left. Claire took a shaky step backward. "William, please," she whispered. "Don't do this. You don't understand."
"You're right," he said. "I don't understand." His voice rose, not loud, but sharp enough to slice the entire mansion open. "I don't understand how a woman I trusted, a woman I welcomed into my home, a woman I let near my children, could look a 6-year-old boy in the eyes and threaten him." Claire was shaking, her lipstick smudged, her glamour cracking at the edges. I swear I didn't." "You framed Maya. You terrorized Ethan. You stole from me." "I can explain." "No," William said sharply, "you can't." He turned to the approaching guards. "Take her upstairs.
She stays in the guest suite until I decide what comes next. She does not leave, she does not touch a phone, she does not speak to my staff. Claire's eyes widened in horror. William, no! You can't lock me up like this! 2 guards seized her arms. William, she screamed as they dragged her down the hall. You're making a mistake! I can fix this! I can fix everything! Her voice disappeared into the corridor. William didn't move, didn't breathe, didn't blink. He just stood in the center of the mansion he built, realizing the woman he almost married was a danger greater than he ever imagined. And the fallout was far from over.
Claire Whitmore did not sleep that night. She paced the mansion like a storm trapped in marble halls, heels cracking against polished floors, breath sharp and uneven, eyes wild with calculations. Every mirror she passed caught a glimpse of a woman unraveling, and each reflection only fueled her fury. How dare a maid threaten her life here? How dare the billionaire's son humiliate her? How dare Richard believe anyone but her? By sunrise, she had a plan, and it was cruel. Maya arrived early, as she always did. Even after being accused, dragged, humiliated, her sense of responsibility remained painfully intact. The mansion was quiet, wrapped in the soft gold of morning light. She clutched the strap of her shoulder bag, breathing deeply before stepping inside. She didn't know whether she still even had a job. She didn't know whether Richard would ask her to leave or ask for the truth. But she knew one thing. Ethan needed her. And whenever she remembered his little voice whispering, "Don't go," her heart softened just enough to step through the door again. She wasn't 2 steps inside when she heard it. Whispers. Movement. Something tense in the air. Her stomach tightened. Then she turned the corner and froze. 5 household employees stood lined up in the hallway. Housekeeper, cook, 2 cleaners, and the chauffeur. These were the people Maya had eaten lunch with, laughed with, helped during long shifts. But now, they looked at her as though she carried a disease. Mrs. Linton, the head housekeeper, folded her arms sharply. "So you're back," she said. Not a greeting, an accusation. Maya swallowed. "Mrs. Linton, I didn't—" "We don't want to hear it," the cook Jacob shook his head. "You almost cost us our jobs too." "What? How?" Maya whispered. "Because Claire said you were planning something bigger," Mrs. Linton snapped. "She said you've been spreading rumors about everyone, trying to sabotage the household." Maya's legs almost gave out. Rumors? Sabotage? Of course. Claire had gotten to them first. Of course she had! Before Maya could respond, Mrs. Linton took a step forward, finger jabbing the air like a knife. "You need to leave before you drag us down with you." A hot silence filled the space. A silence Maya knew too well. The silence of being outnumbered, outpowered, and unheard. She took one slow breath. "I would never hurt any of you. You all know that." But none of their eyes softened. None of them stepped forward. And for the first time since she set foot in the Whitmore mansion, Maya felt utterly alone. Claire appeared at the top of the grand staircase like a queen descending from a throne. Hair curled, makeup flawless, smile sharp enough to cut glass. "Maya!" she exclaimed, voice dripping honey over venom. "You came! How brave!" Every staff member straightened. Maya felt her heart thud painfully. She reached the bottom step and looked at her bag. "You won't need that," she said. "You're fired." The words dropped like a guillotine blade. "But," Maya's voice cracked, "Richard said—" "Richard isn't here." Claire stepped closer, lowering her tone. "And he won't be back for hours."
She leaned in, lips barely moving. "By the time he returns, you'll already be gone." She straightened, voice returning to its bright, performative sweetness. "You're dismissed." Maya's throat tightened. "I want to talk to Richard myself." Claire's smile turned cold. "Sweetheart, if you stay here until Richard returns, I will call the police. And this time I will make sure they find something incriminating in your bag." The threat hung in the air like smoke. Maya's eyes widened. "You wouldn't!" "Oh, I would. You think the world believes maids over wives? Over billionaires' wives?" Maya felt the heat drain from her body. Of course. Claire wasn't just threatening her job. She was threatening her record, her life, her future. Claire stepped around her casually, brushing her shoulder as if removing lint. "Run along, Maya, before I decide to make things worse." A small voice pierced the silence. "Maya?" Everyone turned. Ethan stood at the end of the hallway in his pajamas, rubbing his eyes, hair messy from sleep. The moment his gaze settled on Maya, his face lit up. He ran to her, arms reaching. Maya kneeled instantly, catching him. He wrapped his little arms around her neck so tightly she felt her heart crack open. Claire froze. Mrs. Linton stiffened. The staff exchanged uncomfortable glances. "Maya, are you leaving?" Ethan whispered, voice shaking. Sweetheart." Her voice trembled despite her best effort. "I have to go for a little while." "No," he clung tighter. "You promised! You promised you would stay!" Maya's breath hitched. Claire stepped forward, smile tight. "Ethan, darling, she has to leave. She's done something very... Liar." The hallway froze. Ethan pulled away from Maya, wiping his face, turning toward his stepmother with wide, angry eyes. "You're a liar," he repeated, voice louder this time. "You said Maya stole, but I heard you. I heard you in Daddy's office. You took the money." The cook gasped. Mrs. Linton, her hand flew to her chest. The cleaners exchanged shocked looks. Claire's mouth fell open. "Ethan," she hissed, "you misunderstood." "I didn't. And you told Mr. Gregson to fire Maya because you said she's too close to Daddy. I heard that too." The world cracked open. Claire stumbled back a step. Maya stared in Ethan in disbelief. The staff's faces shifted, some angry, some horrified. And Ethan stood there, hands clenched, voice trembling but brave. "Leave Maya alone, or I'll tell Daddy everything." Claire snapped. She lunged forward, grabbing Ethan's arm too hard. Maya reacted instantly. "Don't touch him!" she shouted, stepping between them. Claire recoiled, eyes burning. "You?" But then a deeper voice cut through the hall. "What's going on here?" Everyone turned. Richard Whitmore stood in the foyer, and his expression was thunder. Claire went pale. Ethan ran to his father, tears spilling down his cheeks. "Daddy, Claire is trying to make Maya leave!" Richard's jaw clenched. He looked from Ethan to Maya to Claire, and the temperature of the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. "What," he said slowly, "did you do?" The staff held their breath. Claire opened her mouth, trembling. "Richard, darling, she—" "Stop talking," he said, voice sharp as steel. "I heard everything." Her face drained of all color. Richard had been there. Long enough. Long enough to hear Ethan. Long enough to hear her threat. And long enough to realize he had married a monster. Richard stepped forward, voice low. "Maya isn't leaving. Not today. Not ever. But you?" He looked at Claire like a stain on marble. "You're finished here." Claire staggered back, whispering, "Richard, please." But he held up a hand. "No more lies." The staff slowly turned to Maya again, and for the first time in hours, their eyes held shame, guilt, and regret. Mrs. Linton bowed her head. "Maya, we're so sorry." Jacob nodded quietly. "We should have listened." Maya closed her eyes, overwhelmed. Claire shook with rage, voice shaking. "You can't do this. You can't make me leave." Richard's gaze turned harder than stone. "Watch me." Claire's world began to crumble, and Maya's was just beginning to rise. Because the backlash was here, and it was only getting started.
For the first time since the accusations began, the mansion felt different. Not safer, not quieter, but awake. As though every marble tile, every crystal chandelier, every inch of those golden halls finally understood what had been happening in the shadows. A truth too big, too ugly, too carefully buried to remain hidden. And now the lid had blown open. Claire stared at Richard, trembling. Her lipstick-perfect mask had cracked so violently she looked like a distorted reflection of the glamorous woman she pretended to be. "Richard," she whispered, "please don't make any decisions while you're emotional." "I'm not emotional," he cut in. "I'm done." Claire flinched as if he'd struck her. The staff quietly backed away. Ethan clung to his father's leg. Maya stood perfectly still, hands gently resting on Ethan's back. And in that moment, Richard finally saw it. The quiet strength, the steadiness, the safety his children felt with Maya. A safety they had never, not once, shown around Claire. Claire saw it too, and her fear twisted into rage. "You're choosing her?" Claire spat. "A maid over your wife?" "I'm choosing the truth," Richard said coldly. "And the truth is, you hurt my son, you framed my employee, and you lied to me." Claire's chest heaved. No, you're not thinking clearly. She manipulated Ethan. She's been manipulating you, too." But even as she said it, her voice cracked. Richard did not move. "I've been blind, Claire, but I'm not anymore." That sentence, that final cut, it hit harder than anything. Claire's lip trembled. "Richard, don't do this. You know how much I love you." He stared at her like a stranger. "You love my money. You love the lifestyle. You love the power, but you've never loved me." Her eyes filled with tears. "That's not true." "It is," he said quietly, "and we both know it." The moment hung between them. A dying marriage, a woman cornered, a man awakening, and a maid standing in the line of fire. Then Claire snapped. "Fine," she hissed. "If you think you're walking away from me, you're wrong. You have no idea what you're risking." She stepped closer, voice lowering to a sharpened whisper. "I know things. I know everything, and I'm not going down alone." Maya felt the air twist. Ethan buried his face into Richard's leg. Richard inhaled slowly. "Threats won't save you," he said. "We'll see," Claire answered. Richard led Ethan upstairs, one arm around his son, his voice softening instantly. Maya turned to leave quietly, giving them space. But Richard stopped halfway up the stairs. "Maya." She froze. He looked over his shoulder, expression unreadable. "I want you to stay." Maya swallowed. "Are you sure?" "You protected my child," he said simply. "I trust you." Those words washed through her like warm sunlight after a storm. She nodded. "Of course." Claire watched the entire exchange from the bottom of the stairs, jealousy tightening her jaw so hard it seemed painful.
but she didn't speak. Her rage was no longer loud. It was strategizing. In Ethan's bedroom, Richard sat beside his son on the small blue bed, the boy curled into his chest. Maya stood near the door, giving them space, but close enough to reassure Ethan with her presence. Richard stroked Ethan's hair gently. "Can you tell me what happened?" Ethan sniffed, voice small. "Claire said, if I ever told you, she'd send Maya away forever. She said I'd never see her again." Maya covered her mouth, fighting tears. Richard's heart splintered. "Ethan, you should have told me sooner." "I was scared," he whispered. "She said you wouldn't believe me. She said I was just a kid." Richard closed his eyes. Of all Claire's crimes, manipulating a child, his child, was the deepest cut. "What else did she say?" he asked gently. Ethan hesitated, then looked at Maya. "She told me that if Daddy ever found out what she took, she'd blame Maya. She said no one would believe a maid." Richard felt something hot rise in his chest, anger volcanic enough to make his hands shake. He forced his voice calm. "You're safe now, Ethan, I promise." The boy nodded, hugging him tighter. Then he reached a hand out for Maya. "Don't go," he whispered again. Maya knelt beside the bed and took his hand. "I'm right here," she said softly. For the first time, Ethan smiled, and Richard's eyes softened as he watched the woman who had done more for his children than he ever realized. Claire didn't cry. She didn't scream. She didn't pack. Instead, she grabbed her phone. A name flashed across her screen as she dialed. Arthur Briggs, Richard's senior financial advisor, a man who once joked that Claire could outsmart the devil in a chess match. Claire whispered sharply into the phone the moment he answered. "Arthur, listen carefully. I need a transfer done, immediately." Arthur hesitated. "Mrs. Whitmore, Richard told me to freeze all large transactions until further notice." Claire's eyes narrowed. Of course he did. Of course he moved fast. But she moved faster. "Arthur," she whispered, voice sugar-sweet but lethal, "do you remember the documents I found last year? The ones you begged me to forget?" The line went silent. Claire smirked. "I want the transfer now." A shaky breath came through the phone. "Mrs. Whitmore, this could ruin me." "Then you should work quickly," she replied. When she hung up, Claire's smirk hardened into determination. Richard thought the truth was the worst thing that could come out? No, she was about to show him what real damage looked like. Downstairs, after soothing Ethan to sleep, Richard headed toward his office. Maya followed at a respectful distance. "What are you going to do?" she asked softly. Richard didn't slow. "I'm ending this." "Richard, she's dangerous," Maya warned. She's already done enough harm. I'm not giving her the chance to do more." Maya hesitated. Then she said the one thing she had been afraid to say all along. "You need to protect yourself." Richard froze, turned slowly. "What do you mean?" "She's cornered," Maya whispered. "People like Claire, when they know they're losing everything, they attack. Not with fists, with secrets, with lies, with whatever can hurt the deepest." Richard exhaled through his nose. "You're right." He stepped closer, closer than he had ever had. "Maya, thank you for everything." She felt her throat tighten. "You don't need to thank me. I do. I don't know what would have happened to my children without you." Their eyes met, his filled with gratitude, hers with quiet strength, the air between them charged with something unspoken. Then, a loud, sharp crash echoed from the foyer downstairs. Both of them jerked toward the sound. "What was that?" Maya whispered. Richard stepped forward immediately. "Maya, stay behind me." They hurried down the staircase.
and froze. The front door was wide open. A vase lay shattered on the floor, and Claire was gone.
Richard felt his stomach drop. She's running, he breathed, and she's going to do something reckless. Maya felt her pulse spike. Richard, where would she go? He turned toward his office with horror dawning in his eyes. My financial files, my accounts, my company. Maya's eyes widened. You think she'll steal from you? No, he said darkly. I think she already started. In that moment, the tone shifted. The danger grew sharper. The stakes exploded. This wasn't just about lies anymore. Claire was about to bring the Whitmore empire down with her. And the real battle was only beginning.
Rain hammered the roof of the Whitmore mansion like a warning drum. Lightning cracked across the sky, illuminating the empty driveway where Claire's car should have been. Richard's breaths were tight, sharp, driven by a fear he hadn't felt in years. Not fear for himself, but fear for his children. And Maya, who stood behind him now, hands trembling but eyes steady. Richard, she whispered, she didn't just run, she took something. He didn't turn around. I know. His voice was ice. He stepped into his office and froze. Drawers yanked open, files scattered across the floor. His safe left ajar, blinking a red warning light. Maya covered her mouth. Oh my God. Richard knelt near the safe, shoulders shaking, not for fear, but for fury. She took the backup drive, he said, the one with all my corporate codes, contract archives, and personal accounts. That's millions, maybe billions. Richard looked up at her slowly. Claire isn't running, he said. She's going to war. Out on the rain-slick roads, Claire drove like a woman possessed. Her hands white-knuckled the steering wheel, her eyes wild, mascara streaking down her cheeks. Stupid, stupid man. You think you're gonna humiliate me, replace me, throw me out like trash? Thunder boomed overhead. Claire's voice dropped to a trembling whisper. I built a future with you, and I'll burn it down before I let anyone take it. Beside her, a sleek leather purse sat open. Inside, a black USB drive gleamed like a weapon. Not just a drive, a detonator. One click, and half of Richard's empire would crumble, and she planned to use it. Richard stood, fists clenched, mind racing. We need to call the police, Maya said. She'll bury us in paperwork and lies before they even process the call. Then what do we do? Richard took a breath. We outsmart her. Lightning flashed across his face. She thinks she knows my weaknesses, but she's forgotten something. Maya swallowed. What's that? Richard turned fully toward her, and for the first time, he didn't see Maya as just his employee. He saw her as the woman who saved his children, the woman who risked everything. She's not the only one who knows how to fight dirty. Within minutes, Richard had alerted his security team, men he trusted more than most family members. She has my drive, he told them. She's panicked, she's volatile, and she won't stop until she destroys everything. Do we pursue her directly? One guard asked. Not yet. She'll expect that. Richard grabbed his coat. She'll go for the one place where she can do the most damage. The downtown financial tower? No, he said. She's too emotional for something that calculated. The guard frowned. Then where? Richard met Maya's eyes. The mansion I bought her mother. Maya inhaled sharply. You think she'll hide there? No, Richard said. She'll lash out there.
A small voice came from behind them. "Daddy?" They turned to see Ethan rubbing his eyes, his stuffed bear in his hand. "She left, didn't she?" Richard knelt. "Yes, buddy, but you're safe. I promise." Ethan looked at Maya, then at his father. "Daddy, is it my fault she's mad?" Maya's heart shattered. Richard pulled Ethan into his arms so fast it nearly knocked them both over. "No, it's not your fault. Not a bit. She made her own choices." Ethan nodded, small fingers gripping Richard's shirt. "Can Miss Maya stay with me until you come back?" Maya froze. Richard looked up, eyes softening. "Maya?" She knelt beside Ethan, brushing his hair back gently. "I'm not going anywhere," she whispered. Rain pounded down as Richard's USB tore through the gates of the quiet hillside property he'd bought for Claire's aging mother. But the front windows glowed, lights on, curtains open, a silhouette pacing back and forth. Claire wasn't hiding. She was waiting. Richard stepped out of the USB alone. The rain soaked him instantly, plastering his hair to his forehead, dripping down his jaw. But he didn't flinch. He walked straight to the door and pushed it open. Claire spun around, mascara streaked down her face, the USB drive held between trembling fingers. "You came," she whispered. Lightning cut across the sky. "You knew I would," he answered. Claire's laugh was high, unstable. "You always do what you think is noble, Richard. You always try to save everyone, even people who don't deserve saving." "Is that what you want?" he asked quietly. "To be saved?" She pointed the USB drive at him like a knife. "I want you to suffer." Richard stepped forward. "You hurt my son. You framed Maya. You lied to everyone, including yourself." "You loved me once," Claire screamed. "I thought you could be loved," he corrected softly. Her face twisted. "That maid made you weak." "No," Richard said calmly. "She made me see." Her breath hitched. "I was supposed to be the one. I was supposed to be their mother." Richard finally lost the last sliver of patience. "Claire, you never wanted to be a mother." Silence. Rain. Thunder. Claire's lips parted, trembling. "You didn't see what I saw," Richard said, stepping closer. The fear in Ethan's eyes, the bruises they tried to hide, the way they flinched when you entered a room. Claire swallowed hard. "I didn't mean to hurt them," she choked. "Yes, you did. But here's the difference between us. I'm not gonna hurt you." He extended his hand. "Give me the drive." Her fingers twitched. Her breath trembled. Her eyes filled with fear, hatred, grief, all tangled together. And then she snapped the drive in half, just broke it clean down the middle. Richard gasped. "You idiot," he whispered. "That had every corporate backup I had." Claire smiled, a slow, broken smile. "Now you understand." The door burst open. Police, security, 2 detectives. Claire staggered back, betrayal twisting her face. "You called them," she breathed. "No," Richard said. "Maya did." Claire went pale. They cuffed her gently, but firmly. She didn't fight. She didn't scream. She just stared at Richard with hollow eyes. "I loved you," she whispered. He shook his head. "You loved the life, and now that life is over." As they pulled her away, Claire's voice broke. "You'll regret choosing her." Richard didn't answer. He didn't need to.
Back at the mansion, dawn broke through the clouds as Richard walked inside, exhausted but steadier than he had been in months. Ethan ran to him, Maya close behind. "Daddy!" the boy cried. Richard caught him, lifting him easily, holding him tighter than ever before. "It's over," he whispered. "You're safe now." He met Maya's eyes. "We're safe." Maya's breath caught. "Richard!" He stepped closer. "You saved my children. You saved me." She shook her head. "I just did what was right." "That's why you're the only one I trust." They stood inches apart. Thunder finally faded beyond the horizon, replaced by soft morning light. Ethan yawned dramatically. "Daddy, are we gonna have pancakes?" Richard laughed softly. "Yes, buddy, pancakes. Lots of them." Ethan tugged Maya's hand. "You too, please." She smiled, and they walked to the kitchen. Together, as a family for the first time.